Okay, we're doing content a little bit differently this week. Before I wrote paragraphs, this time I'm just going to do a PowerPoint presentation. Makes it much easier and a little bit more interactive for me, to be honest. So this is the outline that I want to follow. I want to highlight last week's results. I want to rank the teams again from what I did last time, make some corrections to obviously because there's a lot of upsets this week. I want to repost the top 10 players from stats and then also my personal top 10 players. And I want to give you my predictions for this week. So last week, this is Group A. TMGB versus the Kingpins. I thought this was going to be a closer game, but it ended up being a blowout. TMG just kind of came to play, and that was proven. Pretty strong showing from all around the map from TMG, but I want to shout out specifically Yoey. I think he went deathless both games. They gave him Jinx both games as well, which why not? I feel like Jinx is getting through a lot in drafts. I feel like teams aren't putting enough prio bans on this, but it is what it is. But Yoey definitely performed. They had a lot of deathless players in some of these series, so TMG is going insane. And they might be honestly the better TMG team. I don't know yet. Bang Chillers Mikey's Minions versus Optimal Esports Dynasty. Closer game than I expected. I'm going to pull this over on the side here as well because I have it pulled up in Discord. Um, so, first game was extremely close. Definitely, OED should not have lost. It was 25 to 17. Gator Crunchy came up insane with his Tristana. Um, and they ended up losing and throwing the game late. I don't think OED should have lost this, or not should have lost this. They shouldn't have lost the first game. Let me correct myself. But I think they should have taken the series 2-0. But I think OED is a little bit overhyped, but I'll get into that a little bit later. Dove Monarch, I think this team is highly underrated. They picked up some good players with Kindred Hot Picks and Moon. And I think Moon could probably contest for one of the better ADCs in this league. I mean, again, we're talking about Group A, Mickey Mouse Group, but I think they have a solid roster here, and I'm excited to see what Monarch can pull off, and hopefully they can make the playoffs because I'm really interested in seeing how this team performs against other teams. So shout out to DOV. Faceless, this was an expected 2-0 for me. I was kind of happy to see Faceless take this 2-0 as well. Let me pull up this. I know Knives. I know the guy that he coaches this team or is the org manager. I don't really know. Anyways, I know Knives is pretty cracked, and if he has anything to do with this team, um, I think they're going to be very successful. I was really excited to see Professor Malice kind of lose though, because I remember uh, being in a league with this guy, and I think he's quite a yapper, such as myself. So this is Group B. I want to. There's a couple things in here to highlight actually, but actually Saturn beating Subatomic Gaming Axion. I don't know if this was expected. I think they could have 2-0'd, but again, I will. I've said my piece on Spoobert already. I think he's very coin toss. I enjoyed playing on a team with Spoobert, but as a if you're looking for someone who's consistent, I wouldn't consider Spoobert the most consistent player, and I'm really not the most consistent either. But yeah, Spoobert's pretty coin toss. But they sub back in their actual top laner with CZI and got the win confidently. It looks like May is having insane pop off performances, and so wasn't Sluggo. Shout out to my boy Sluggo. I think you performed insanely well. You were off Lilia, and I know I said that you probably don't perform as well off them, but you definitely proved me wrong in this series. So shout out to you. And shout out to XG. I think you're kind of, beating the doubters again. And I'm looking forward to seeing how your guys' playoff run becomes. Subatomic Gaming Axion. I think this team has some potential. Again, I think Goat Lista is a top tier ADC on the correct team. I don't think he's on the correct team, so I think Goat Lista is a low tier ADC just on this roster. I think he's a great player in general, but I don't think he shines with this roster. But I'll give him props for wanting to play on a more of a relatively no-name roster in comparison to last season. game against ID Honeyfruit and Cosmos Wings, Cosmos Lantern. So this was the first upset of the week, and to what I consider to be an upset. And I think I kind of you could have expected this. I kind of expected this somewhat. I think Cosmos Wings, Cosmos Lantern is a great team, and I also think ID Honeyfruit, they pull out some crazy picks, but I think sometimes it doesn't work. And yeah, I mean Hamza had some pop off performances, especially on Jinx, that I want to highlight. Played Aphelios, showed a couple of good champions that he likes to scale with. It looks like Jinx, Aphelios, and other scaling ADCs. But yeah, they definitely had an impressive win. Shout out to Cosmos Wings, Cosmos Lantern, all around good performance from everybody on this team, and to beat IDH. I mean, an expected champion in this league. So, and they beat them pretty confidently in the games that they won. Wasn't even close. So, yeah, I think they can pull out as many creative picks as you want. Like Zhao PP is still playing, Silas Jungle, but sometimes creative picks don't work against teams that have a better identity. And from what I can tell, Cosmos Wings, Cosmos Lantern, I think a lot of these guys are friends. Um, and I think this will work out for them really well this season, and I'm excited to see how they perform. So, and then Sparta Bite Esports Tarantula versus Dorado Gaming Iota. I mean, this is expected. No offense to Spider Bites. I know they have a great roster too with John Squid and other players on the roster, but Dorado, I mean, this was just expected at this point. I don't really need to highlight anything here. This is just a normal for Dorado and a normal for this roster. I mean, I'll personally say my piece. I've played with players on this roster, and I think a couple of them do not belong to be in this league, but that's my opinion. Regardless, they are the best team in this league at the moment. Sensei Squad 2-0. I mean, yeah, we don't need to get into this. I was getting into it, but RIP, Bing Chillers. Group C. Now this one's gonna kind of sting a little bit, but Sean Fan Club versus Horizon Gaming. Me and Worm Jones were talking a little bit before this game, and just kind of trying to throw some predictions out. Not gonna leak anything, but I'm very happy to see that Horizon won this game deservedly, and I think they pull out a great win against a very tough team. Now, I don't know. I mean, everybody can have off days. Sean Fan Club, this might have been the off day for them. Who knows? I don't exactly know how extremely close the series were. But from what I can tell, it wasn't like a huge, like obviously a clean sweep. Games look pretty even, and I I'm impressed. I'm hopeful for Horizon still, and I'm hopeful that the rest of their season goes pretty smoothly, because I really hope they can make it to playoffs, because I do think this is a championship contender team even without Smurfs. And I'd love to see them make it, because they deserve it, and it would suck if their season was ruined by a Smurf. So, shout out to Horizon. And Sean Fan Club, we're excited to play you over here. And it sucks that we won't have our full roster when we do play, because Lost is a fraud, but we won't get into that. Glacial Knights versus Cracked. I think Glacial Knights, I mean, finally pulling out like a 2-0 win. These guys have gone to like 3 games. It seems like every week. Deserved win, and it looks like they've solidified some things on their roster. I'm gonna scroll through here. Hold on, just to find it. Yeah. So one thing I want to highlight: Grimgar is obviously still nuts. Trisco seems disgusting. I think Trisco is a new pickup, or relatively new, and extremely high performer, especially if you look at their solo queue stats. It almost look like a Smurf. So Trisco is my player to look out for on this team. Grimgar obviously has been for a while, but this roster is going to be solid, and I don't think we face them next week. TMGP does. I think we're going to get a run for our money. If not, maybe possibly lose the series. So TMGP, us, versus MZRY or Misery, Jade Solemn. This was an upset. This was the third and worst upset of the week. I didn't highlight that. Horizon was the second upset, but third and worst upset of the week. we came in and definitely felt like this team was going to be a pushover, and that definitely affected the way that we played. Um, I have nothing else really to say about the game. Like we just kind of came in expecting these guys to be underdogs, and they didn't sweep us, but I will admit the game was pretty tough to play. I think that their drafts were better, and I think that they overall just played the front to back compositions just a lot better, played macro better. So this team is really solid. They are definitely above us, and I would put them there in the ranking. They really impressed me with how they played, and like I said, I wasn't. They did have a couple subs. I'll admit they had abusive insomnia who came in the first game, and he was disgusting. Almost Smurf level tier disgusting, but yeah, still giving him credit. Dude's insane. And then Malins is insane. Malins would be my MVP overall throughout the series just because he played insanely well. Super consistent mid laner. And this team, like I said, this team is really, really good. And they don't mind going uh, the distance in long games. And honestly, if I were to recommend like compositions to play against this team, I'd pick ones that take advantage of their early game more because these guys are terrifying in team fights. Literal Monkeys versus Elysium Atlas. Um, I didn't. I thought this was gonna be a little bit closer, but maybe I'm wrong. Elysium seems kind of weaker than a lot of people expected. I don't know why that is. They have a solid roster. I just don't think the pieces to the puzzle have kind of like fit yet. And maybe if you give this roster like another, I don't know, another split to solidify things, so they'd be insane. But you would think that with the pieces that they have, that it would be a lot better than it is. But it's not. But good win for Little Monkeys, and I hope they get a shot at playoffs too. The GOAT Pack of Paul really stepping in here. Um, but yeah, I'm hoping Elysium gets playoff potential too. But with the way that they've been playing, I don't know if they even deserve it. I mean, there's teams like Misery and Little Monkeys and Glacial Knights that, in my opinion, deserve it more than this group. And I'm gonna say it. Group B is the death group, but I feel like this group is the most interesting to watch because even the low end teams are still very solid and probably like depending on the given day, more solid than the top teams in this category. So this is my new team rankings in order. We have our expected champions. I'll highlight that. Dorado, obviously, I have them at number one. I feel like they're going to win this league, hands down. When you have Dybel and Mason on the same team, it's just a recipe for disaster for any other team that's facing them. They're disgusting, and like I said, I don't think they should be in this league. But regardless, they are, and I think they will take it this split. Horizon, I can confidently say they're probably the best team in our group, in Group C, and I think that they have great potential to beat other teams in other groups. Um, OE Dynasty, honestly, it feels terrible having these guys up here. We've played them in a scrim recently. I'm not going to leak that either, but I don't think OE Dynasty is the team that everybody thinks they are. Maybe just in scrims they're a little bit worse, and when it comes to game day they lock it in. But I don't think these guys are the team everybody makes them out to be. And in a Mickey Mouse group, I mean, they're doing great, hands down, and props to them. But I really think OE Dynasty loses to the top teams in Group B, and honestly probably to the top teams in Group C too. So OE Dynasty, I'll keep here for now because these are just the best teams out of each group that I've put up there. But yeah, so that's the expected champs that I have for now. Group A, I have Faceless being the best out of this group. That's not obviously the expected champs. I have Faceless being like the top contender. I feel like their roster in general is just very, very solid. And having Knives as as a team manager and a coach, I feel like they've proven themselves, and I feel like they're definitely the second best team in this. And going down, TMG, they could be interchangeably with Faceless, depending on the day. I think TMG is definitely the second best team in this category, and I think honestly this week we're going to see if OE Dynasty are frauds or not when they take on TMG, and I can't wait to see how that game turns out. And I'm predicting that TMG takes this week. Um, Dove or DOV, they are disgusting. I'm opening this up so I can have a look at this. But they are by far one of the most surprising rosters to me. Um, Adding Kindred, Hot Picks, and Moon, obviously that helps a lot. And I think this roster, it's kind of it's hard for me to tell right now. But I do feel like this roster is going to be a terror, and I hope they do make it into playoffs as well. Um, Travelers, the Kingpins. I feel like I don't know. This roster isn't extremely exciting to me. Even if they do make the playoffs, they'll probably be a first round wash. Um, no Clip is probably the best person on the team that I would shout out, being most consistent. But other than that, I don't see them being a problem at all. Bing Chillers, Mikey Minions, same thing with this team. Gator Country has some and T Lights. The team, I guess, in general is pretty good on paper, but I don't see them making it past first round playoffs either. Group B, Cosmos Wings, Cosmos Lantern. I have them at the top of Group B. I know some people don't have this in the rankings, but I have them above ID because obviously they just beat them, and I think they deserve to be there. With a team that knows each other, that are pretty like a pretty close group of friends, they have a pretty disgusting roster with Hamza, Elsa from Frozen, Splash, and I've heard a lot of good things about Jaquavis. So this roster looks solid. I don't know if they're a championship level team. I think they have to lock in some things, and they have some players in different roles than they've originally played. But yeah, I think this is a super solid team. IDH. I mean, this roster obviously is also goated, but I think lacking consistency. I think on a good day, they could beat probably any roster in here besides Dorado. But on other days, obviously you can see that they crumble and they fall, and I don't know, maybe that's just because they're drafts. I don't know what it is. I don't know. But IDH, I still think you're probably one of the best teams in this league, but with the lack of consistency recently, I can't put you above Cosmos Wings. XG, I think XG is an exciting roster, especially adding a different top laner now with CZI. And I think May stocks are going up. I remember I said May stocks. I wasn't investing in them yet, but now May has had some pretty insane pop off performances. And even though you're plat, it doesn't really matter. Climbing as ADC is kind of tough. So props to you, and props to this roster, and props to Sluggo as well for some standout performances this week. And I hope to see more of that from them because I hope to see them in playoffs. Subatomic Gaming. Again, I think this roster is lackluster. I think this is one of those rosters that, like, on a good day, could beat some of the better teams, but normally, more consistently, they're probably not going to beat the harder teams, especially in their group. Given, I feel like Subatomic Gaming action, like in Group A, would probably be second, and Group C would probably be like third or second. This roster is solid, but I don't think it has enough firepower to beat other rosters in here. Inspired by Esports, John Squid. I mean, there's other players on the team that you can shout out, but John Squid definitely the one to look at off this roster and the most exciting player to watch. Again, I think it's kind of hit or miss with this roster. I mean, that's kind of proven with their lack of consistency. Also, being in the death group, you have to be more consistent each week. And I think especially in Group B, if you lack firepower as a team against teams like IDH and Dorado, you're just not going to compete. And unfortunately, in the way that the draw happened, you just have to be more consistent. And I think Spider Bite Esports, again, could be the best in other groups, but in this group aren't. And I don't know, maybe they'd be they'd probably be first round contenders. And then Group C, I have Sean Fan Club at the top. I feel like even with the hiccup this week against Horizon, I feel like this is still a very solid roster. Everybody has off weeks, and this could have just been one for them. Their roster is extremely solid. Obviously, Lost and Sean and Leon have made a name for themselves. They are very good players. But and I don't expect them to be pushovers either. I expect them to make it at least to like quarters or semis. And I don't know if they'll win the whole thing. I don't think so. But again, great team. And this is a team too I want to highlight. Sean Fan Club does have enough firepower to make it further, but I don't, like I said, I don't think they'll win against top talent as it was seen against Horizon. Um, MZRY, this team is very solid. I can't wait to see how they perform before playoffs, and I think they definitely are a playoff contender. The way that they played in our game, like I said, I had them way underrated before. I thought they were a no-name team, but they've added some players, changed the roster, and they're very solid. Um, and I will say too, they have my favorite logo. I think the graphic designer for this organization is insane. I love this logo. But yeah, have them here. TMGP, that's us. I have us here. I I'm confident in our roster. I think we can come back from this, but I think we have some problems that we have to face, especially with confidence issues that we're having. Um, and there's sometimes identity issues when Dwam isn't, you know, like backpacking a game. Like how do we find different angles to play through, and how do we get that pressure off Dwam to not always have to perform? And I mean that's a great question. I feel like we have solid players. This is what I'll say about our roster. We have solid and consistent players all over the map. I think Zodiac, Mike Lacey, myself, and our support. I think we're all great players, but I don't think we're players that have like standout performances that make us carries. I think we definitely play around our top laner Dwam, and I think in order for us to be more of a playoff contention, to make it further into these series, we have to find different angles to play. We have to find different ways to play the game, and we're working on it. But I can't confidently say at the moment that we're a championship level team without fixing the issues that we have to fix, whether that be in draft, whether that be just how we play the game. And so I'm still confident in our roster. Obviously not backpedaling at all. I expect Holy to make it, and I expect to win. But there's a lot we have to work on before we can get to that level. Little Monkeys, this roster is exciting. I could also see them being playoff contenders, but I also think that this is a roster that doesn't have enough firepower to make it past like the top, the top of the top. And so, still excited to watch them play. I know Packapal is goated, but I'm not putting them any higher than this at the moment. They haven't really, sparked too much interest in me throughout this season, and I still hope they make it far, but I don't have any high expectations for them. Elysium, again, I've said this time and time again. I think this is a roster that has the firepower, but they just don't know how to use it effectively, I guess. I don't really know. Elysium, this roster should be great, but it's really underperformed compared to what I think, and they have like 2 weeks to lock it in, and hopefully they can make playoffs. But they have to lock it in now because I think teams like Little Monkeys and MZRY, Misery Jade, and then you have also Glacial Knights. I mean Glacial Knights. It really depends in Group C. Like we could lose 2 games, Elysium could lose 2 games, and Glacial Knights could make it into the playoffs. There's still spots in Group C. I have, and this is the rest in peace category, obviously. The Civil Squad for Bing Chillers, whatever, they collapsed. Eden Snapdragons, and Fantastic Academy, or whatever they're called. I just think these rosters aren't that great. Lock things in for like next season and hopefully hope for the best, but I don't think they're gonna make playoffs this year, obviously. And then Sensei Squad, being in the group that they're in, Group B, I don't think this squad's really a pushover. But I don't see them making it out of Group B, and it's probably confirmed at this point that they're not going to. Cracked. This roster, I can confidently say, is probably the weakest in Group C. And even then, they're not that bad. But playing against them, we did troll a couple picks last week. We wanted to experiment with Yasuo, but I can say that Cracked isn't really that great. So I don't see them making playoffs. But Glacial Knights, I don't think belong here. Like it honestly sucks putting them here. But when you look at standings, Right now, they are at the bottom of Group C, 1-4, but they're 5-8 total game record, and they have an insanely solid roster. Like this team should be higher than Elysium, my opinion. And I think it's just sad that they're here, and hopefully the playoff contentions aren't killed yet, but it's looking that way. I'm hoping for the best for them, but again, they're facing us this week, and we're going to try as hard as we can to make it so they don't make playoffs. But if they beat us, who knows? Their dream is still alive. But it's going to take a lot for them to get to where they need to be. But I'm hoping for you, Glacial Knights. And maybe if you send me a PayPal, we might just int. So these are the top 10 players from stats alone. I just looked at the SEM stat sheets. I didn't include players on here that haven't played more than like 5 or 6 games because I know some rosters have added players recently, but I feel like putting them on here right now would be kind of dumb. Rutledge, number 1, aka Mr. Serious. We've scrimmed him we scrimped him and call him Mr. Serious because he doesn't really like to joke around in scrims. So, Dibble, or Dibble, I don't know how you say your name, but definitely one of the best players in this league. Solo Mason, best ADC in our group, I think. I faced him. He's super solid, really good player. I don't think he's better than Dibble, but we'll see. Like I said, I don't think he is. I don't think any ADC is better than Dibble in this group or in this league. John Squid, great jungler. I wish I could see you play more. But I haven't. I just know based off stats and what people are saying that you're disgusting, so probably deserve to be here. Mason, he deserves to be number 1, to be honest. But he isn't according to stats, so he's here. Lien, 1, 2, 3, solid ADC. I haven't faced him yet, and I'm very excited to face him. And that way I can have a better opinion on him. But obviously stats are great. You deserve to be here. Worm Jones. You deserve to be here. Worm, we faced you, and I honestly think, I truly think that you probably are one of the best junglers in this league. With like proper confidence, you by far have one of the best pathings that I've faced in this league, and I know that's probably because on XG, if Improvise had worked with you at all, like Improvise is the GOAT at working through jungle pathing with junglers, and if he's worked with you at all, I can tell that you've definitely improved drastically from that. But you're a hard jungler to face, and if you play appropriately to the strengths in your team, you're nuts. Maze, Maze is the GOAT. I think he's a very flexible ADC, has some picks like Seraphine that I think he's nuts at. I think he's more consistent at Seraphine, honestly. But he's a terrifying ADC. I can say that too from scrims. You're very good, very solid. Deserve to be up here. Terps, played them as well. I mean, stats wise, deserve to be up here, but you wouldn't be on my top 10 list, to be honest. And Zhao PP, obviously another go to jungler, and I think Zhao PP deserves to be up here, maybe a little bit higher, just because of the flexible picks that he offers and how he performs on those picks. So some credit due to that as well. This is my personal top 10, so disregarding stats, what I think. So I think Mason is number 1, hands down. I think he's the best player in this league, and like I said, probably doesn't deserve to be here. But regardless, he's insane. He's definitely the best top laner that I've ever played with. Dibble or Dibble, you're probably one of my favorite players I've ever played with on a team. You made my job extremely easy as a jungler, and I know that K-Peps probably feels great being on this team. Not saying that K-Peps doesn't put in work, because after talking to Mason, I obviously truly underrated K-Peps from what I thought. But yeah, I mean, you probably make their job a lot easier. Dwam, definitely the best player on our team, hands down, most consistent, and definitely the carry on our team. That's just known if you look at stats. You can try to ban his champ pool out. You're never going to. He has an insanely flexible champ pool, and it's very hard to ban him. And he'll carry on most picks that he plays, especially if we draft around him. Worm Jones, I think you're fantastic. Like I said, I personally feel like you might be the best jungler in this league, especially beating Lost last week and having stand-up performances because they egoed your Viego for some reason. I feel like you are the best, especially on certain picks like Viego. Playmaking champions, I feel like you are one of the best junglers in this league. Solo Mason, Definitely by far one of the better ADCs I've faced. Super consistent. Um, and if Worm Jones continues to play around the bottom side of the map, and you're being put on picks like Ashe to where you can help Worm Jones with his early clear, knowing when to invade and making plays around Worm, I feel like you guys will see a lot of success into the playoffs. Hopefully, if you make it there. Rutledge, your stats. Obviously, I think you probably are the best mid laner in this league. Your stats prove it. I think you're kind of an ass though, but other than that, I feel like you're probably a great player with a little bit of an ego, which is fine. Zhao PP, great jungler. I haven't seen much of Zhao PP. I think he probably has an ego too, to be honest, but he seems like a great player. His stats are insane, and the picks that he can pull out are also insane. Sean, from what I can see, the picks that you can pick mid lane and your KDAs and how impressive you are, definitely one of the best mid laners. And any team to have Sean on there is probably lucky. So, because of the flexibility that you have in the mid lane with him, Kush, I finally am giving Kush some respect. You can look at stats all you want. He has put up very solid performances every game. I mean, you also have a very good team around you, but I feel like Kush, in my opinion, might be better than their last mid laner in forms of consistency. And I can say from personal experience, I've faced Kush in scrims. He seems like a facilitator, and it's very nice to have facilitators like Kush and K-Peps on a roster full of insane players like Mason and Dybul. That makes it easier for your carries to play. So Kush, I'm putting you here at 9. Feel like you're definitely a solid player. And then K-Peps, I'm putting you here at 10. I'm definitely washed for saying that you were worse than some junglers that don't even belong on this list. I think you definitely belong to be up here. From what I can gather from Mason and from what I see in your stats, super consistent player. Obviously, you're not going to have pop-off performances like Zhao PP and Worm Jones because you don't really play their champion pool. Like, yeah, you might pull out the Xin Zhao a couple times, but you're very much so a facilitator, and it's seen. And any team to have that type of style jungler is insanely lucky, especially teams that have very good carries in their solo lanes, like that don't count on their jungler to make a ton of game-changing plays with carry champions. So K-Peps, super solid player, can count on him definitely to perform. Same thing with Kush. I feel like they're very similar. So this is my predictions for this week. So in Group A, I have Monarch beating Fantastic Academy Dreamcatchers. I feel like this is expected. They should 2-0 this team. Maybe 2-1, but I expect them to 2-0. Kingpins versus Faceless. This game, I feel like Faceless will probably 2-0, but I'll give TKP a little bit of an edge here. I'll give them at least one win against Faceless, but no more than that. This is where it gets kind of spicy. I've highlighted the spicy games in yellow that I feel like are a little bit out there, but I feel like TMGB will beat OED this week. And I feel like this week right here is the true realization of like how good of a team is Optimum Esports, because they're facing what I consider to be the second best team in this group at least, and we'll see if they can beat them. But and then Bing Chillers, Mikey's Minions versus Eden Snapdragons. I feel like this will be a 2-1 game, maybe a 2-0. I feel like EDNS is pretty bad, so I don't know, not really an exciting game by any means, but I feel like Bing Chillers will pull this out. Dorado, or this is Group B now. Dorado, obviously this was a forfeit match. SGA versus Sensei Squad. I feel like they'll 2-0 this week. Might be a little bit closer than I think, but I think they'll still pull it away with a 2-0. Cosmos Wings, Cosmos Lantern versus actually Saturn. I feel because of the fact that Cosmos Wings just beat ID, I think that they're an insanely solid team and have a solid roster. I don't know, though. I mean, I could be a fraud for this, too. I didn't know really what to do with this, but I think I'm confident in the fact saying that Cosmos Wings will 2-0 XG. I hope that's wrong. I really hope XG does win this series, but if I had to bet, I'd probably put my money on Cosmos Wings, just because of their consistency, and they've shown that they can compete with the top contenders, whereas XG has lost against top contenders, so who knows. But I hope XG does win. And then Sparta by Esports Tarantula versus ID Honeyfruit. I expect ID Honeyfruit to win 2-1. I expect it to be a close series. You have two hugely popular junglers with a ton of firepower on the rosters. This should be a close series, but I feel like IDH will pull it away. This also truly dictates how good IDH is in their consistency. If they lose this week, it looks pretty bad for them going into playoffs. So they kind of need to lock this in for me to like keep putting them higher on the tier list. And Group C, I have Misery Jade beating Elysium. I mean, this is expected at this point. I don't think Elysium has what it takes to perform right now, and I don't think they'll make playoffs with this roster. And I'm sorry for the players on this team. I feel like you guys are great individually, but something's just not clicking, and I don't know what that is. But I feel like, especially since they beat us last week, I feel like you guys will have a hard time against them. Horizon versus Literal Monkeys. I feel like Horizon will probably 2-0 Literal Monkeys. It's hard for me to tell. Maybe Little Monkeys will pull out an insane win because they need it. But both teams need it here, and this game will be actually really interesting to watch, just because of how much these two teams need these wins for playoffs. And so both teams are going to be coming in here looking to win, and I don't think any of these teams are going to undershoot each other. So this will be an interesting game to watch, but I feel like Horizon's going to take the win here. Cracked Incorporated versus Sean Fan Club. I mean, this is a no-brainer. I feel like Sean Fan Club is going to smurf on this team. They could have 4 subs and they'd probably still win. So Sean Fan Club kind of gets like a bye this week. But maybe I'm a fraud for that and watch Sean Fan Club lose, but I don't expect that to happen. And then TMGP versus Glacial Knights. I'm honestly pretty scared for this just because of the fact that we did lose against players that we thought were underdogs last week. Glacial Knights has a very solid roster. And this is our game to lose, honestly. I expect us to win 2-1. I expect it to be a close series, and hopefully we 2-0 them. But I wouldn't be surprised at all to see Glacial Knights win, especially if we can't pull some things together. Scrims have been going okay, but I don't know. The last week kind of shot us in the foot, and we lost some confidence. So we're trying to rebuild that right now, and a win against Glacial Knights would definitely help us, so we need it. But I think it'll be a closer series than what we think. So that's all that I have. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this form of content. I know it's kind of sporadic, and maybe I went off my notes a little bit, but I feel like it's pretty fun to do it this way. Let me know what you guys think. But yeah, good luck in your games this week.